dysfunctional that. Today I'm going to be showing you how I'm repairing some scaffolds that I have. In a previous video, if you remember, I had a log on the sawmill and I cut dunnage out of the first 3 feet of the log. And I got 5 pieces of dunnage that were 3 by 3, 12 inches long. The second, which was 4 feet long, I cut various pieces out of there, 2 of which I showed in a previous video where I showed that these were backstays for my doghouse mover. And I got a total of 21 pieces out of this, and they were all different size. Some were thin, some were thick, just a lot of different sizes. 21 pieces out of this 4-foot section. Out of this last section, I was cutting boards that were 53 inches long, 10 inches wide, 3/4 of an inch thick, and I got 7 total out of this. I could not have done that if I had ripped this log into a square. This is where I was talking about getting everything that you possibly can out of a piece of wood. I had almost no waste off of this section right here. I got virtually every piece of wood that was in there. And what we're going to be doing is we're about to fix at least one rung or one section of scaffolding. I'm going to show you how I did do that. But this is those films, and I'll link these in the description so you can see how I was salvaging or harvesting my dunnage, my other pieces, and then this board. What you see me doing in these 2 things right here is what I did there. The only difference here is I didn't film it. So now let's fix the scaffolding. Just before I started the camera, I measured the width from here down to the other one, and it was 19 and 7/8 wide. This is 12 millimeters deep. These things basically just sit down onto a pole, and that's what holds them in place, and they work well. So how am I going to hook this up? I'm going to give you an overview, and then we're going to make it happen. What I'm going to do is let me tighten this down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to place some boards across here. I'll have a flat board on the top, and then I'll have my tie downs that hold it in place down the rung. From what I'm seeing here, if I go ahead and run these boards through a joiner and then rip one of them to fit, I can do a laminate from the top to bottom with a bunch of battens underneath this. Then the next thing that I will do is I will rip one of these boards to fit, and then we'll put it together with batten. Like this. It's on the money. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to rip this board, and once I do that, then I'm going to repeat this same process for the other one, and I'm going to start building my battens to support this thing and put it all together. If you recall, I was discussing using battens to stiffen all this up. These right here that you see, these 2, these are battens. After I had cut everything off at the top of the log that I wanted, then I cut these out of the bottom part of it, flipped the log over, cut the round part off where I needed, and I now have these flat battens. And these are about roughly almost 10 feet long. Not bad. Again, like I said, I cut the pieces out of the log as I actually work the log. Now, you can't see it, but down here on this board, somewhere right here by that knot, I have FN, which means that goes to the fence, and this outside edge is what I'm calling the fence. So what I'll do now is I will, let's see here, I'll place this on and get a measurement. The distance on both ends is 9 3/4, so this is cut straight. One thing to be aware of, I cut these boards out down the length of them using a circular saw. So I have little chips every now and then that I have to remove in order for this to follow the fence and not screw up. So if you're going to be rough cutting the way I did, using a circular saw to cut out your stock as you cut your log down, just be aware to watch out for those things. So I'm going to rip this board the way you saw me rip that one, and then I'm going to come back and we'll start joining this up after I cut the battens to the proper length. As you can see, it's a good fit. I'm going to cut these battens up here right where they're at. Those battens down there I'm going to allow to extend across the last rung, and I'm going to cut them on the other side of that. That will just help guarantee strength and stability of my walk plank. Before I cut this, you can see my pencil lines, maybe they're a bit faint, and then I got the X. That tells me that this is scrap. I'll throw it off to the side. Down on the far end down there, where I want those pieces hanging over, I've put a D on them, which is telling me that's the distal end from where I'm working. This is proximal, that's distal. Yeah, years in medicine. I will never get it out of my system. So now let's put it all together. As you can see, I have center support up to here, and when I put the other board on, I'll have center support that way. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to give this a real good dose of cuprinol, and then I'm going to screw it all down. This one coat of cuprinol is enough to protect it for the duration I'm beginning this, and then once I'm done with it, I'll take my scaffolding down. I'll probably again one more time, I'll put it in storage in case I need it again. But like I said, this enough cuprinol is good. I'm going to do sides here, and I'm going to do the ends and back. But that's all it takes to protect something against bugs and rot for like about 1 year. This is going to protect for a year, so better. What I've decided to do is just put a single batten down the middle and tie into it. Both pieces will be there. It will keep any lateral movement from happening. And then I'll come back and I'll screw these things in from the bottom and see how they go. As you can see, I have 2 boards run up. In the middle, these boards were not quite long enough, so I just slabbed in something to fit. Everything is tied down securely, and then the last part of it is done the same way I did the first part of it. And as you can see, it turned out fairly well. So I am now ready to put this part of the scaffold into work and accomplish a few projects that I need my scaffolding for. This concludes this. I hope that you learned something. Dysfunctional vat out.